Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon. You're watching BTV World and welcome to the program Newsroom. I'll be your host for today. My name's Faheem Bangash. And today, as always, we have a segmented program, and today's first segment would be about Pakistan's position on Afghanistan. Of course, the Financial Times report has been published and it has eulogized Prime Minister Imran Khan's position and the Prime Minister's stance on Afghanistan, how he had been saying time and again that there is no military solution to the Afghan problem. And of course, the Afghan government is supposed to be an inclusive government. And the world is supposed to cooperate with the Afghan government. There is supposed to be, the world is supposed to incentivize the Afghan government so as to move forward. And of course, it has to be a win-win situation for not just Pakistan, but also the rest of the world as well, because of all the fears which have been slowly and gradually, we've been watching how on different media these fears have been embedded in people's minds that perhaps militants will arise from that country. But of course, we will be discussing all that in detail. Our second segment will be about economy, most importantly, CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, how CPEC is gaining progress, how CPEC is gaining pace and momentum in Pakistan. Of course, we have been calling CPEC a game changer ever since the beginning of CPEC, and now we have seen how in the tenure of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf government, the CPI has built up momentum and how that will ease problems for the people of Pakistan and the government of Pakistan and, of course, the economy of Pakistan. And in the third segment, of course, we will have a news story as always. And the news story of today is about the FBR, how Prime Minister Imran Khan in one of his tweets has congratulated the whole nation on surpassing on another FBR milestone and surpassing the target that was set in the last fiscal year, and how we have seen in the current fiscal year because of increasing exports, because of the increased tax net, how the goal has been achieved. Rather, we have surpassed that goal. We will be discussing that as well. So now, let's move on to our first segment, of course, that is about the Financial Times report, which has been published in, of course, the London Journal. We will be discussing that with our guest, but first of all, a report has been prepared by researchers. Let's take a look at that.
The shambolic U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and precipitous collapse of U.S.-sponsored state apparatus vividly depicted that Pakistan's stance on Afghan endgame was pragmatic. Out of all the foreign stakeholders in the conflict, Pakistan was always the top one and the party which played the greatest role in advancing its envisioned peaceful solution to the war. The only solution to Afghan gambit was a political one which incorporated a leading role for the Taliban as legitimate stakeholders in that conflict's inclusive settlement. Despite spontaneous American decision to abruptly leave Afghanistan while paying no heed to Pakistan's concerns, Islamabad tirelessly worked to bring Taliban to the negotiating table and facilitated smooth U.S. departure. In their latest testimony before the House Armed Services Committee, top U.S. journals also informed American lawmakers that the loss in Afghanistan was a cumulative effect of 20 years of wrong decisions and bad planning was not caused by any single factor such as the Taliban's alleged sanctuary in Pakistan. A Financial Times report lent further credence to Pakistan's pragmatic Afghan policy by deciphering that Taliban takeover of the country have vindicated, which has made decades-old position in Afghanistan look prescient. Premier Imran Khan has been sheerly vocal to lament Pakistan's decision to join U.S. war on terror, a mistake that cost over 80,000 Pakistani lives compared with less than 2,500 American soldiers. It is therefore incumbent upon the international community to acknowledge Pakistan's colossal efforts in Western Afghan mission and pay tribute to the losses it incurred by becoming frontline state in poorly choreographed U.S. war on terror.
And that was a report in our first segment, and to discuss that, to have a little debate on that, we have in our studios our first guest. That would be Mr. Salman Bhittani, who's a foreign affairs expert. So welcome to BTV World.
Thank you so much.
Now, sir, we have seen how there were so many concerns ever since the Afghan issue was raised in the entire world. There were a lot of concerns as far as Pakistan is concerned, as far as the neighboring countries are concerned, but specifically Pakistan. Now, the recent report that has been released in the Financial Times, we have seen that Prime Minister Imran Khan has been eulogized for perhaps his far-sightedness and perhaps how he was, if not correct, then maybe partially correct. How do you see that?
I think the Afghan situation came as a surprise for general public in the world, particularly in US and Europe. It was not expected. Then the think tanks and the intelligentsia and academia, particularly in US, they have always been ignoring Pakistan's position. Pakistan is a neighboring country to Afghanistan. Whatever happens in Afghanistan has an impact over Pakistan.
Absolutely.
So that's why they have failed to understand that what role Pakistan has been playing. And Prime Minister of the country, the establishment of the country has been thinking about its own interest. So over the period of time, Pakistan has been making a lot of efforts to safeguard its own interest and to also safeguard the interest of the region, because bringing peace in the region is paramount to Pakistan. United States of America is thousands of miles away from the region. So definitely now the report of Financial Times and the voices that we are hearing from different quarters, they are establishing the fact that Pakistan has played a very pragmatic, rational and positive role.
Absolutely.
And there are some forces, we know, there are some voices, we know, that are trying to somehow scapegoat Pakistan out of this situation, because it has emerged as an embarrassment for all these forces who are claiming something else in this conflict. Financial Times report is one of that voice, which is genuinely recognizing the impact of Pakistan's diplomacy in the whole process. It is genuinely recognizing the importance of Pakistan's role in the region, and with specific respect to, with specific reference to Afghan conundrum. Now the challenge, now the issue at hand is that the world, that's why I started my talk with the word shock, that the world is not coming out of the shock of this development, and they are not realizing that what to do next. There is a force which won the war, effectively won the war, and as you said, as it was mentioned in the report, that the American generals have also in front of their Senate committee accepted that it was a loss. We have lost the war. So now if you have lost the war and there is a victor in the war, how to adjust, how to somehow in this international system, in this international legal structure, how to corroborate that force. That needs deliberations, and Pakistan is on its toes, and that's why Pakistan is telling the world that this is the next step if you do not want to ruin the situation further.
Of course, and like you very rightly mentioned in the Senate, General Milley said that these were sort of 20 years of continuous mistakes that were made, and no one factor is responsible for that. He was perhaps we can take that into the sense of Pakistan, that perhaps only one actor, only one factor is not responsible for the whole thing which happened there. And as a matter of fact, I think the speech that Prime Minister Imran Khan made in the United Nations General Assembly was also something that we can relate to here, because like you said, Pakistan has to speak in its own interest. And obviously, Pakistan already is hosting so many Afghan refugees. And he said that right now there are about 50% people living under the poverty line. What about the next year, when it would perhaps go more to 90%? What about Pakistan? What about the rest of the neighboring countries? What will become of them? So I think he was very right in claiming that in the United Nations General Assembly and trying to open the eyes of the international community in that regard.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the conflict and the situation at hand is now should be seen in a different perspective. When the war was going on, when there was this active conflict, definitely strategy was the paramount concern. All these countries in the region and outside the region were thinking from a strategic standpoint. Now the conflict is over. Now the thinking, the diplomatic mindset should come in, and the transformation of conflict resolution should take place. It should go to the next step. Now there is a regime somehow which is there. We need to talk to that regime. The world powers need to talk to that regime that conflict is over. Strategic thinking is over. Strategic gains and losses and wins and defeats and triumphs, everything is now, that calculation, that mathematics is done. Those who had to won, they had won. Those who lost, they lost their the strategic gains. The strategic calculus was weak, but that episode is over. What Prime Minister Imran Khan was reiterating time and again, and what Pakistan as a state is saying, that the strategic stage is over. Now transform into a humanitarian, political, diplomatic stage where we need to think about the human rights, we need to think about the political settlement in Afghanistan, we need to think about how to somehow talk to the regime that is there, talk to Taliban that is there, that it's not 1996, it's 2021. You have to work with the world, you have to do trade, we have trade corridor with Afghanistan. There is an international trade corridor that has been introduced in the region, which is second topic of your today's segment. CPEC is part of this region, so the region has changed. The regional realities have changed. So in order for stability, for economic stability, for political social stability, steps needs to be taken, approach needs to be changed, and the diplomatic front should take the lead in this scenario, instead of thinking strategically and still trying to find some space where you can have some strategic gains, or somehow you can make a face-saving strategic orientation from like our neighbor is trying very hard to somehow find,
been trying that.
Yeah, so somehow find a small cushion where they can say that, okay, we have these gains, because they couldn't tell their academia and intelligentsia that what were your gains. Same is the case with the United States of America, that for 20 odd years, what you have been achieving over there. And as I was telling you in the break, that I was there in DC at the time when this development took place, and the public opinion is really against what all the development, and they are asking questions from their lawmakers.
They are the taxpayers, the money has been used there.
Yeah, they are asking questions that why the private contractors have been benefiting from this war, how there is this linkage between the military industrial complex and the conflict in Afghanistan, and how the whole racket is working, and that's how this whole racket is influencing each other to somehow create a situation where they could come up with some explanation.
I think due to this, there will be a lot of pressure on the Biden administration, and we've seen the bill that was passed in the Senate yesterday as well. No immediate reaction came from the Biden administration as such, and even today, in response to the Financial Times report, we have not seen any endorsement by any government as such. I mean, that they should be perhaps praising Imran Khan or Pakistan, or at least appreciating what Pakistan has done so far, or appreciating that they acknowledging that perhaps they were right in saying all along that military solution is not the solution, perhaps only dialogue can move things forward. What's your opinion on that?
I think they are in a catch-22 situation, because the domestic political scenario in the United States of America is very polarized. The Republicans didn't accepted the outcomes of the election. So that is also an inherent pressure on Biden administration. So definitely that quarter will capitalize on this loss, though they were also planning to leave, and the negotiation started in Trump's administration.
Yes.
But still, they will capitalize on this development, this political military development, and that's what they are doing. And you saw that in the Senate day before yesterday, and that's why Biden administration is in a fix. Then Biden administration is answerable to public, because Biden administration has raised a lot of eyebrows and political hopes of the people. People are thinking that the Biden administration will change the scenario that had developed in the last 5 years under Trump administration. So that's why they cannot completely accept the defeat. They cannot even concede to what happened. They had to do what they could do. That it was a thoroughly planned thing. It was not abrupt, and at the end of the day, they are facing tough opposition as well. Plus, you would have noted that the recent visit of Prime Minister Modi also that created somehow some pressure on Biden administration, though they didn't came out with a substantial argument or a substantial statement which could somehow appease India. But still, Biden administration was under tremendous stress, and they couldn't opt for cosmetic statements that generally states do. So this catch-22 situation is somehow has created a stalemate in United States congressional circles, that what strategy to adopt, how to sail through this this political crisis, this crisis of morale even. And what I think is that they are thinking on the lines of somehow creating an argument that we had this issue, we had that issue, because on one side they were the ones who approached Pakistan to become the frontline ally, and Pakistan became the frontline ally because they came and they were like, it's for the peace of the world, and it's for the global peace and global stability. So Pakistan played its role. Now, can they tell their lawmakers that that decision was wrong, or can they tell that the wrong decision was carried out for 20 years? They couldn't realize in the first 5 years or the second 5 years.
Like you very rightly said, it's pretty embarrassing. Now, sir, before we conclude our first segment, I'd like to have a concluding remark from you, because Pakistan now has come under the limelight, especially after the Afghan situation. But Pakistan also realizing its strategic location, geostrategic location, Pakistan is trying to benefit from that as well. Your concluding remarks on the overall situation now?
I think the situation is critical. I would not say that it's too much in favor of the country of Pakistan, because the settlement is yet to take place. The future course of action is yet to take place. We are yet to see concrete political development in Afghanistan. There seems to be a stalemate, and then definitely Pakistan is also looking forward to its allies, particularly China, in this matter, that how it takes the situation forward. And then we also look forward to the developments that are taking place in the region on the Central Asian side, and particularly the role of Russia. So at the moment, I think the situation is critical. Pakistan needs to be cautious, as it is.
Of course, and let's hope for the best, sir. Thank you very much for your time and your insight into the matter.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, that was Mr. Salman Bhittani. He was foreign affairs expert in talking to us regarding the situation and, of course, the Financial Times report. Now we will be moving on to our second segment, but first of all, we have to take a short break, and after that we'll see the package which has been prepared. And welcome back. Now, before we start our debate in the next segment, we have a little report that has been prepared by our team. Let's have a look at that.
In common parlance, the multi-billion-dollar Chinese flagship project, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, is peddled as game-changer, owing to its potential to usher sustainable economic infrastructure in Pakistan. The ambitious project is aimed at overhauling Pakistan's economy to unleash the untapped potential of a promising country. The first phase of CPEC rejuvenated infrastructure of Pakistan, with primary focus on energy, communication infrastructure, and the second phase aims at passing the benefits of CPEC to the average Pakistani citizen by creating employment and investment opportunities through initiation of industrialization, innovation, and broadening the scope of agriculture sector. Reaffirming Pakistan's enduring commitment to emblematic project, Premier Imran Khan vowed to ensure expeditious progress on CPEC projects, terming the difficulties faced by relevant departments temporary. A Senate panel had expressed reservations over alleged slow pace of development on the CPEC CPEC and purported dissatisfaction being expressed by Chinese companies. Dispelling all the speculations, Premier Imran Khan categorically declared that the pace of CPEC projects will garner momentum, irrespective of myriad challenges. Chief amongst those obstacles is pandemic. The successful execution and operationalization of CPEC project will crystallize wealth creation in Pakistan, along with augmenting the pillars of country's economic landscape. The economic future of Pakistan is inextricably linked to CPEC, and its full swing pace would help Pakistan achieve economic fortunes of global stature. Therefore, it is imperative to ensure that CPEC projects are optimally utilized, and thus it's indispensable to expand its scope to neighboring countries, particularly Afghanistan.
Well, welcome back. And now to discuss this, we have in our studios with us Mr. Shakeel Ramay. He's an economist. Mr. Ramay, welcome to PTV World and welcome to Newsroom.
Thank you.
Right, sir, we know that Prime Minister Imran Khan, he has assured the nation that there will be expeditious work on the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Also, he was inaugurating this 600 kilovolt transmission line between Matiari and Lahore. And he said that, of course, due to the pandemic, things were stalled. We saw that there were postponements in many of the projects. But he said that there will be expeditious work and things will go a long way. Your comments on that, sir?
Look, first of all, the things were going well for quite some time. If we look at the pandemics, even during the pandemics, we signed 2 new MOUs. One MOU was on agriculture and other MOU on the science and technology. So both MOUs are very important. One is for agriculture is to uplift the food security and the exports of the sector and solve the issues. And second is 4th generation revolution, so science and technology. These were more important. But coming back to your questions, how to speed up the work on CPEC in coming days or coming months. Fundamentally, we have to learn one thing. We have to streamline and bring CPEC work under one roof.
Right.
What is happening right now for the last 7-8 years? There is a distribution of work and there are a number of ministries and a number of departments they are involved in it. That's why sometimes we feel like there's the projects are not happening with the speed what we were expecting, what the Chinese were expecting. Right now what they have to do, they have to bring all the work of CPEC related projects or programs under one roof. CPEC authority was a good initiative. If they are not happy with some circles with the CPEC authority, work should become under the planning commission or any other one ministry. Once they have to make the rule, once some project come under CPEC is coming to CPEC authority, for example, right now, just planning commission or planning commission. Planning commission is a focal organization. If some project is coming under CPEC, they don't need to take the permissions for the signing of other ministries.
Right.
They should, right way should be approved from there. They can have the representatives of other institutions under one roof at the planning commission. But the investors, they should not be go around the circles like that. They're going from a planning commission to the board of investment, board of
interest as well.
And the board of investment to the energy ministry to the agencies for the clearance for the blah blah number of things. If they want to make it a success story and to enhance the speed of CPEC, they have to bring all the work related to the CPEC under one roof. I can give you one example from the existing system. You must be aware of when there is a big project in any ministry, what they do, they establish one dedicated unit. It says a project management unit. So that project management unit is being given a task to complete that one. So nobody will interfere in their work, only secretary can talk. So they can taking care of everything because they want the speed and to meet the goals and the deadlines. Similarly, CPEC is a big project.
It's a huge project.
It's a huge project, and you are tagging your future to the CPEC.
Absolutely.
Everybody, if you talk to anybody, they say it's a game changer, it's a future Pakistan. And then you have to be innovative in the implementation. And the innovation come here, you bring all the work under one roof in one ministry. The investors don't need to run after 1 minute. What is happening right now? We have Federal Board of Investment. We have Provincial Board of Investment. From Provincial Board of Investment, things are coming to the Federal. From the Federal Board of Investment, they have to, if the decision has been made, they have to go to the relevant ministry. And the relevant ministry, they have the allied departments and organization. They have to run at the round the clock and in the circles. how you can expect the work will be speed
But
up?
we also know that the Energy Minister, Hamad Azhari, did mention that all the bottlenecks will be removed, and perhaps, like you are mentioning, a one-window operation will be...
Not one window. In existing structure, one window is not possible.
Right.
Right now, what you can do, bring all the people under one roof. Because you have scattered the work, like Federal Board of Investment, Provincial Board of Investment, then for the supplies, you have to deal with the district organizations. So they have to run from one place to another place. One thing and second thing, you said you used the word bottleneck.
Right.
So I ask you one question. So where it is a neck in a bottle? On the top.
Yes.
You have to figure out. So who is creating problem, from where the problem are coming? So
That's beautifully said. True.
So at this point of the time, we have to simplify it. You have so many enemies. Even today you will see so many reports in the international media and the local media, they are talking like it's a debt trap. For God's sake, it's a debt relief. It gave us the breathing space. It gave us
obviously we know that people are not happy with CPEC, the people who are not happy with Pakistan.
Only reply to this propaganda or everything can be the speed of the CPEC and the dedication to complete it.
Very true.
So, and for that purpose, the fundamental change you need in your system is to bring every work at the one point. One thing and second thing, in the political economy, I am a political economist.
Right.
In a political economy, why would we read the political economy? Especially when we are living in the election-based system, in the governance system. Internationally, it is accepted fact. So every party, they see, so what I will get in the vote. If I use that incident, how I will get the vote. And for that purpose, if you are sitting government, there are some MNAs, members of the parliament, they will question what is getting my area, my district.
True.
So the answer to everything is that we have one centralized system, and there the things will be distributed among according to their needs. And if any investor is interested to go to the Sindh, to the Balochistan, to the KPK or the Punjab, so it will facilitate it from here.
True, and like you said, you mentioned political economy. There have been claims that most of the work on CPEC has been done in the PTI tenure. How much do you agree with that?
For God's sake, they need to come out of this mentality. So that's why I said a political economy. So they want to.
That's why I asked you this question.
That's what I'm saying. Look, you are not serving the interest of the people of Pakistan or the Pakistan. Either it's a PTI, it's a PMLN, it's a PPP. When they say, oh, I have speed up the work, that means you are criticizing that the governments were not doing the work. Then definitely they will come back. They will say, no, they are not working. Then the international propaganda, they will use your own statement. They will say, no, we are not saying.
Against you.
They will say, we are not saying.
You, yes.
It's a US sitting minister or it's US ex-minister. They are saying that the things are happening like that. What would be the answer of that? We need to keep on one thing. We have to be unanimously, we have to accept that. This is one project on which our future, right now what they are saying is most of our future dependent for economic revival on this project.
Exactly.
So what we have to talk sense. We have to talk without criticizing any other party, or taking credit or not taking credit. Even an institution needs to stop here, to take the credit or not to discredit other, because your statements are being used in the propaganda.
So I think everybody needs to be united when it comes to the economy and when it comes to projects which affect your economy for that matter. Now also we know that the first phase of CPEC is going on, and like I mentioned, the 660 kilovolt line has been inaugurated, and the Prime Minister said that it will decrease the line losses and hence save billions of rupees, the taxpayers' money, and of course people will benefit a lot from it. Now how successful do you think this first phase is going, because apparently it's sounding very promising, it's sounding really nice, and it seems that the government is doing a lot so that it can be actually materialized and the people can take benefit from it.
Look, this is not only for the transmission losses. If we look at Pakistan and China are also working on the major transmission lines also, because before that we did not have the security in the transmission. Because you remember 1.5 years back, there was a complete shutdown across the Pakistan. There was, because we had the only one major line, transmission lines which are running across the country for connectivity. Now we are creating alternatives. So that's why it's also very important in the security point of view. It will definitely, if it will increase the efficiency of the transmission, that is needed. Right now we are on the lower side. This was unfortunate, not only one or two governments for the decades we did not invest on the transmission lines. Even during the last 5 years, when first phase of the CPEC, we were failed to invest on the transmission line. We need what was needed as we started the energy project. At the same time, we must start the transmission lines, because sometimes we face the problems because the energy is there, but there was no transmission line. So it was good, and it will be helpful in the future.
Certainly.
Because you will have the alternative now.
And also, I mean, the scope of CPEC is not just Pakistan. We know the neighboring countries will be involved as well, specifically talking Afghanistan will be involved. Now, how negatively do you think that would impact Pakistan's economy? Of course, I'm talking years from now, but still, I mean, if we do a little analysis here, if we think about it, how do you think that's going to affect us?
In which sense?
Economically.
No, your question, the CPEC is the project, how it will affect us?
Yes.
It's a positivity. It's a lot of benefit. For example, I will not quote Pakistani study or Chinese study or some Pakistani Chinese as a scholar study. I will quote the 3 studies by the World Bank.
Right.
The World Bank conducted 3 studies in the 18 they published. They said due to the CPEC, they did for a BRI, but CPEC is one of the flagships, so they also look at that. They said, so that can also add up to our GDP up to the 14%. To 14% to the GDP till 2030.
Huge.
One thing. Second, they said it can also help us to alleviate poverty in Pakistan and can bring out by 1.1 million to 4 million people out of poverty. Our trade can enhance 9.5%. So our connectivity will be improved. So the number of indicators they discussed, they said it is a win-win situation. An interesting point, when they were doing the study, is they started in 2014 or 15. At that time, they concluded there was only 500 billion investment under the BRI. Not $1 trillion they are talking about. 8 to 9 trillion investment would be. But at that time, it was 500. By the 500, they were calculating the share of Pakistan, that will be the benefit. Think about it, would be when it would be the 8 to 9 trillion dollar. So what will be impact on our economy? I just gave you 2 or 3 indicators. For example, in the social welfare, it will also enhance up to the 10%. So real income, it will also increase by 5 point, I think, some percent. I exactly will forget the figures, but these are the substantial. And one very interesting finding of that study, those studies, was the major beneficiary of this infrastructure project would be, on the top would be Quetta.
Oh.
Second would be Peshawar, third would be Karachi, and fourth would be Lahore. So there is a lot of propaganda, oh, everything is coming to the Punjab. But the World Bank is telling you a real story. So who will be the major beneficiary? So this is a win-win project. It is not only Pakistan will benefit, China will also benefit. For example, if China use their trade with only the 6 countries, I'm just talking about the data with the 6 countries, Germany, France, Netherlands, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Oman.
Right.
It's on the basis of data of 2016 of trade data. If China use this route, CPEC route, they can save per year up to $71 billion in the transportation cost. And
obviously
Pakistan
that's why China is investing so much money.
Pakistan can earn $12 billion in the form of the different transit trade services. These are the minimum calculations. But the point, coming back to your first point, we need to understand the magnitude of this project and to implement it according to its spirit. We have to take out of those so many ministries and the departments out of the equation. We need to focus at one point.
And also, it is said that in the second phase, the actual benefit of CPEC, because coming back to where I was, this is talking about the future way ahead. The first phase is on the energy and communications, and then the second phase is on the benefit to the actual average Pakistani man. How long do you think, considering the current pace of the CPEC projects which is going on, how long do you think that's going to take for the average Pakistani man to benefit from it?
Pakistani are benefiting. I just gave you a few examples.
Yes, true.
For example, in the case of when in 2014 or 15, Pakistan was losing $4 to $5 billion due to electricity shortage, and our GDP was less than $200 at that time. and think about to lose $5 to $6 billion, $4 to $5 billion on an yearly basis. And you remember in 2016-17, people were talking about our industry is shifting to Bangladesh due to electricity. So first thing, we benefited. Electricity management, then now our industries got stabilized. When the industry got stabilized, we got the new jobs in the industry. So we benefiting. Second, for example, I will give you example of the Port Qasim. So there was a ratio of the 75 to 25%. The population who were workers, 75% were from Pakistan. In addition to that, they trained 600 engineers and 2,000 lower staff and office staff. I am talking about the skill development. 600 engineers is not a small number, and 2,000 office staff. Same is for Sahiwal. And in the first phase, it has created 85,000 jobs. 85,000 jobs mean 85,000 family.
True.
And what is the size of family? 5 to 6% per head in Pakistan. So then look at the number, how many people benefited. Another thing, indirectly, more than 100 SMEs benefited. They benefited, already we are benefiting if we take out the propaganda. Second part, what would be the benefit in the second part? The major benefit would be agriculture, industry. We are working on two things, agriculture and industry. But my brother, it all will depend on how efficiently we implement. If we are just remain to the committed to the old practices, this file will go from BOI to the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Commerce to go to the Ministry of Interior, from there you will go to the district, and after 1 year he will be sitting there.
Of course, we have been watching how the government is working on digitization of each and everything. They're working on paperless technology. They're working on so that the files do not have to be moved.
Digital. It is not about a digital. It's about you have to bring the things at one table.
Like you said, under one roof.
Under one roof.
Yes.
The foreigner who is coming to invest here, you think like that you are giving him a big favor, so you can make him run around the country, and corruption is one other problem. It is not only in Pakistan, but we are also facing the problem here.
Of course, that's one problem which is prevalent all over the world, but of course I think the government is working really hard to curb each and every aspect of corruption that it can. And of course, the future of Pakistan depends on China-Pakistan economic corridor, because obviously a country, if it's economically strong, only then will it have a say in the Committee of Nations. Of course, Pakistan is facing a lot of challenges. Pakistan does need to have a say at a lot of places, because Pakistan is fighting the terror wars, which it has done so perfectly in the past. We've seen that. And Pakistan is fighting the economy war. Pakistan is fighting the war of its neighbors that we've seen in Afghanistan,
but
India.
One thing I want to say, we are fighting, but what we do in the past, we made the mistakes. We always try to look for the shoulders of others, and we should not make this mistake in the form of the CPEC. We try to learn, we have to work. We have to come out of mentality of charity seeking.
Of course.
We were seeking the charity for so many years. Now we are paying back in the form of the debt crisis. Now we are unable to pay back the debt of this World Bank, IMF and other thing. We are taking more debt from them to repay their debt.
No, of course, I think the government is, they do realize that, and I think they are trying their best to do something or the other to get the nation out of these crises.
If they have realized, they have to change some governance mechanism, especially the number of the ministers, state minister, advisors, and at each and every level. You cannot afford to repay the debt, and you are providing the luxury of too number of people.
No, I think the China study, I think that will provide them with a lot of knowledge as far as what you're saying, because they are taking the example of China. China and Pakistan are really good friends. China has benefited Pakistan in many, many ways, especially the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Sir, I would like to have your concluding remarks on that, the speed of the CPEC project in Pakistan. Prime Minister's statement, Prime Minister has promised, he has vowed, he has told the nation that the common man would be benefiting a lot as soon as the inflation would go down. The people would be in a safer place, in a safer haven. They'd be happily living in this country. The Prime Minister has vowed. Your concluding remarks.
The commitment and the statements of Prime Minister are excellent. But the problem is how you will change the institutional behavior.
Right.
Because Prime Minister is not going to approve everything, project coming to the table of the Prime Minister. projects are coming somewhere else. I gave you one example. In the last 2 years, I think we heard Prime Minister is very committed to agriculture. He always talk about when he went to China, he said we want to enhance our trade in the agriculture. So they asked, okay, we want to import meat. For that purpose, you have to create a foot-and-mouth disease-free animal area. For the last 2 years, we are still unable. Statement of the Prime Minister excellent, but how the institutions are responding.
Right.
So that have to be done accordingly.
So I think individually and each and every institution has to be analyzed, and I think that
and in agriculture there is one minister, one advisor, and number of lower experts. So for so many people, how you will make a decision?
that's true.
So what I am advocating from my first sentence, you have to strengthen one institution from where you can take the lead and make things happen.
That's true. Well, Ramay Saab, thank you very much for your time and for your insight into the matter. Definitely, we hope for the best, and we think there is no better solution for Pakistan's economy than the CPEC, provided it's done with the actual good pace and with proper materialization of good governance. Thank you very much for being here. Well, viewers, that was Mr. Shakeel Ramay, very renowned economist. He was talking to us. And now our third segment, which is about the Prime Minister congratulating the nation on the goal achievement of the Federal Board of Revenue. Of course, the target was 1.2 trillion rupees, and that has been surpassed. It has reached 1.3 trillion rupees. And I quote Prime Minister's tweet, which says that I congratulate the nation on Federal Board of Revenue's achievement of collecting 1,395 billion rupees in the first quarter of the fiscal year 2021-22 against the target of 1,211 billion rupees. This was the exact statement made by the Prime Minister on social media website Twitter, and he said that this achievement basically represented a growth of 38%. That is a huge growth that we have seen in Pakistan. And a lot of this growth, we owe it to all the exports that we have seen in this era, in this tenure of the government. This government has focused a lot on exporting a lot of its material, because we did see that in the last 10 years of previous governments, we did see that focus was mainly on importing stuff. But this time we have seen a change of paradigm. We have seen a shift of paradigm. We have seen that the government is focusing a lot more on exporting items, and a lot of that revenue has come from exporting a lot of stuff that we have, that Pakistan produces, and which is a great thing. But we have seen that a deadline for the tax returns have been, of course, extended by 15 days. That has been on the request of a lot of people who are late in filing of their tax returns. But of course, the government is doing a wonderful job, and I think in the later on periods, I think in the times to come, we are going to see some good times. And as we were talking to Mr. Ramay here, that if the pace is good, things will be good for Pakistan. Thank you for watching Newsroom. It's goodbye from Faheem Bangash.